Close Morales from Black Film TV. Hey, folks, how's it going?
Very good.
What's up, bro?
Good to meet you.
Good, Deon. I've seen your work over the years, but this was a good one for you because you're in the lead role. Obviously you've done other parts before, but what went to taking you on this project and just playing the character you have?
Script, man. The script was layered, definitely layered, with comedy, drama, intensity, all of that. It was something that you can showcase everything in one go round. So it definitely was that, and the cast of characters. Reading their parts and going, oh wow, to bring this to life, this is gonna be something else.
Michael, I've seen your work obviously from the Battlestar days to your Fire Country, and all of a sudden, so I'm watching your work. I know where you're at. This is something obviously I didn't expect you to do, but you're like, oh, I know Michael. I've seen his work before. Right. Playing the character of Touch, you're like, oh, he's supposed to be the good cop, but no, he's flawed like everybody else. How else would you describe Touch, and why did you decide to take on this character?
Just like Deon said, man, it's always starts with the story and the script. And I heard a quote years ago, and I think it was Christopher Reeve, that says, when you read a role, you read a part, and you can't picture anybody else in that role but you, it's meant for you. Because sometimes you read something, you go, oh, who'd be great in this, or who I think would be good, then maybe it's not for you. I remember reading this script and reading the character of Touch, and I had some ideas from page 5 after just a few pages, and I felt like there was something that I could bring, and something resonated with me. And there's a story that I have never read before, something I'd never been a part of. And then what Deon said, it was everybody else. It's all the characters. It's one thing to look at you, go, oh, I've got a great role, and then not give a shit about anybody else. But to read this thing up and down, from Joe and down to Angela, you got Leon and Kathy. I was like, man, these characters are so interesting. They're so different. They're so funny. They're so dark. It was a no-brainer. And then, of course, you do what you do. You go and you hope that the stars align and they see it the way you see it. And luckily we did. And here we are getting to talk to you about it.
That's what works. It's the writing and the characters. You look at Joe and you're like, can he do the right thing?
Yeah.
It's like having a gizmo on your side. Goes, do the right thing, don't do the right thing. Go after the money, don't go after the money. And then you, obviously, all the other characters around him, it's a balance between right and wrong. How much more can you say to what I'm adding, Deon, as far as, where Joe is coming from? Where's his mindset?
Yeah, he's just that. I mean, you hit it on the nail. It's like what's right and what's wrong, and determining what's right and what's wrong. And the moment dictates how he feels, and he adjusts back and forth, depending on the moment, the intensity of the moment. Sometimes he's and even his rights is wrong, and his wrongs is rights. And it's just, he just teeter-totters back and forth with that. So,
do you think if he was married to Leon's wife, he'd be steering towards the dark side? Because Angela's more like the conscience. Leon's wife is like, nah. We got her. She watches too many shows. She's like, go get peanut butter. We got
she was ready to go. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? So long as he sleeps next to Angela, it's like, all right, I got to do the right thing. If he was with Leon's wife, you're like, this is how I'm going to tell you how to do it right. That's the ride or die you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what she was, ride or die. She went hard.
Yeah.
So, it's a funny, because I'm watching this unfold. I'm like, this thing looks plausible. If you do this on anywhere USA outside of the big cities, you can get away with this stuff. It's like, small town, no one comes out at night, where it's not like New York, we're like, somebody will see you. We got cameras everywhere.
It's based off of like true events. So so
it's possible.
It's possible. Somebody.
Yeah, they say based because that adds to that gives to the writer. Goes, we can add a little this to Touch's character. We don't have we don't have to make him a screw up. Let's make him an addict.
Exactly.
Let's make him an addict. When you see that scene, and not to give spoilers around, but it gets a little gruesome at times. When you're reading the script, and for the amount of work both of you guys have done as actors, how is this show, when you're working with different writers and directors, up your skill set as actors, because no one can stop learning from doing a game, So is there anything you learned, anything new from doing the series, Michael?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned, well, I have, I'm among greatness in a comedic realm. Deon, Malcolm, Cynthia, Tammy. I mean, these are seasoned veterans, and there was something to be learned from the table reads of each script. We start before we shoot the actual script. We sit down on a lunch break and we read these scripts aloud so we can hear them and get a sense of them. And even at the table read, I knew that these beats were going to be executed perfectly. And that's something that I learned. I have done some work in comedy, and I've done a lot of work in drama, but Deon and I were talking about this earlier. This is a show that walks the edge of both. And you have to kind of toe the line of comedy and drama and intensity. And it was really exciting because we were able to, as a cast with Robb and the team of writers, let the story evolve as we were shooting it. We thought it was one thing, and then it sort of evolved into another thing. So I learned that skill set of being able to pivot, to be able to adapt on the fly. Sometimes you're like, this is the script, this is how we're shooting it. You get there, you get to the rehearsal, you get the first take on camera, and you go, that's just something felt weird. And this collaboration that we had as peers, as actors, and respecting each other's work and working with our writers and Robb coming in, and all of a sudden we realized this is a living, breathing thing. It doesn't have to be as black and white and cut and dry. As the script says this, we're shooting it like this. We learned to evolve, and that's a skill set that I take from this. I'm very proud of.
Deon, you're a comedian, you're an actor, you're a writer. When you and as Michael mentioned, sometimes the comedy elements are there, but it's not so out there like that. You have to read it and see it and make it work. And were you able to come in, knowing your gift as a comedian? Were you able to add a little bit in terms of like maybe we could punch this up a bit as you were saying certain lines? When you come in there, you see certain scenes, and it's like, that's supposed to be a moment, but let's make it better, or let's scale back a bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were given freedom to play. Definitely, you take care of the business and give the lines as written, and then you'd be able to play. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, we were definitely given that option. Being a comic, any project that I try to do, like they know me going in that there will be some ad-libbing going on. For sure. Like it just has to be, because I feel as though that you can get anybody to do this. If you get a comedian and the comedian that you get to do this, you're cheating yourself if you don't allow him to apply himself in. And not just a comic, even any great actor. If you get a great actor and you love his work, and you give him lines and you keep him confined to those lines, you're cheating yourself, because they're going to think of something that you didn't think of. And, if you don't allow them to give you that, then what are you doing?
Yeah, so, they knew the asset they had in Deon. I mean, that, there was a reason. They were definitely not going to try to stifle that in any way, shape, or form. And yes,
how is it when all of you guys are together?
He's being modest. He brings a comedic genius to almost every scene he's in. We definitely need to take for like, say what? There was tangents, and he would say, or just even if it was the smallest little just add-on to the end of the line, man, those are the best when you're sitting there like, and you're trying not to laugh. It's super intense, but all of a sudden he did something super fun, or he just had a look, and we're like, damn, that was good. So they knew what they were getting. Yeah,
it's good that you guys are doing interviews, because I think this show needs promoting, and so that people know about it.
Sure.
There's a lot of product out these days, when it's streaming, network, cable, whether or not you decide to go to the theaters. And it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It's just a matter of making sure people know about it, so you give it a shot. So congrats on the roles. Congrats on the series. Let's see where it goes. Right I'll talk to you guys down the road.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. All throughout the other interviews I've been doing, I goes, why can't they be like Kathy? I said, Kathy is that ride or die, the one that will help your dark side come out.
That's right. You need Kathy on your team.
You need, and what's called? Why am I forgetting her names already? Angela's like, no, I'm the voice of reason. I was like, no, we need you to be like Kathy. It's like, no.
We got the voice of reasons in the house. Yeah.
So coming into this, obviously, you guys have done your share of work, whether it's film or TV series. What was the saying yes to taking on these characters? Malcolm?
Oh, okay, cool. Put the water down. I wanted to do this. I wanted to work with Black people, honestly. I wanted to work with Black people on really good writing. And that's what happened with this. And also, I wanted to work with Cynthia. And so, there was a big chance that we would be husband and wife, and she got the role before me. And I was like, that's dope. And it wound up being all those things and the money. It was the writing, the people, and the money came together.
Hey, everybody needs a job.
And that's the best. That's really.
They
the
always
best
ask, they're like,
pyramid you
why?
can,
Yeah, they always like, why'd you?
That's a strong
Gotta be
pyramid
honest.
based on money. That's a.
You gotta say, hey, listen, I'm running out of Trader Joe money.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And plus, I don't get to do characters quite like this a lot. I think I've been, I like to do.
You've been everybody's favorite Black nerd for a long time.
I have.
Yes.
I have been a Black nerd for a very long time on screen.
And now, on screen only?
Sometimes a little. And
You're
so
part of a group called the Blurs.
it's okay. All
I'm
right.
just saying.
So this was an opportunity to branch out in that way, not just with the folks and the peers and the people I got to work with, but as a character, just playing someone who's a little more working class and didn't invent anything was a fun departure for me.
What about you, Cynthia? What came first, the script or the character for you?
Oh, I mean, I guess, you have to have the script to build a character. So
But when you read the script, did they tell you what character you're playing?
Oh, no. So I read the script. Yes. So the script definitely came first. I read the script, and that's what made me very interested. In fact, when I read the script, it was, I think, originally an idea that maybe I would read for Angela. I think that was more in line with what people saw me as, being someone's either, wife. I've been a lot of wives and best friends, So I think that was really how people thought of me. But when I read the script, immediately I said, oh, I want to be Kathy. So I really fought hard to, show them that this was who I should be. And I think as soon as we read it and everybody heard it and it all came together and it was like, oh, this is the way this needs to go.
I look at Kathy and she's that person that's watched one too many shows and it said, I'll live through these shows vicariously, but now I can live it.
She thinks she knows. Yeah,
I know.
She definitely said, "Oh, I know what I'm."
Yes. So when there's certain scenes out there where it gets a little bit bloody, it's like, oh, these actors are in it for good. They're into this stuff.
Yeah.
So when you're watching this and you're working with Malcolm, and there's certain parts of scenes where it's meant to be a joke, and not so much, but subtly. How do you walk in there and try to keep the straight face when certain scenes are said, certain lines are said, and it's like, okay, that's supposed to be a joke. I'm watching and like, oh, that's a funny part, but it's not supposed to be outlandish.
Mm-hmm.
That's the show. Mm-hmm. In all honesty, a lot of the show is these things that we have to take intensely seriously. From death to blood to loss to beatings, all these sorts of things, and a lot of them are played for drama. But there are the scenes where things get most intense is where the comedy often lies, because that's the thing, when you're in the moment, you can't laugh at it. It's too serious. There's too much going on. And the levity, it really is more for the audience. Mm-hmm. It's really fun being in scenes with her. Probably me and her probably ad-lib more than anyone else probably. And so I crack up at her. I think she's one of the funniest folks on the show and really one of the strongest in terms of the drama or the comedy. But, I pride myself on not cracking up. I try not, I have a very dry sense of humor, and I feel like I can do that right.
And you can ride that comedy all the way. That's why I think we can improvise together so well, but because he's going to keep a joke going. So yeah, he's never going to crack, but what he will do is ride a joke until the end. We could have a whole spin-off episode of just the continuing jokes from Malcolm Barrett. That is a whole sideshow itself.
I'm watching this show and I'm like, which of these characters is gonna crack first in terms of they can't do it? Is it gonna be Leon or is it gonna be Angela? One of them is like, they gotta be the voice of reason. I'm looking at it, it's like, no, you need Kathy in there to keep them on the path. Like, we gotta do this so we don't get caught, so we can make money, and get away. Especially when it happens in any town USA. This was like straight up a big city. You're gonna get caught. There's too many people around. In a small town, where people don't go out at night, you're like, okay, we can walk around, we can make it work. When you're working with different directors on a show like this, or not that many directors, there's only 5 episodes and so forth. But
we did change. We have a new director every 2 episodes. So I mean, for a 10-episode show, I mean that's a pretty, pretty good amount of directors.
So when you have different directors, what part of your skill set as actors gets improved? Because each of you have done your share of work on other projects, but everybody still learns the business, So is there anything you learned in doing this series, Cynthia?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think ideally, as you said, I mean, my hope is that with every project, with every scene partner, that I'm always growing. I think that this was an incredible opportunity because I'm positioned with 4, and there's more, there's so many other, but our 4 main cast that surround me, they're bettering me with every single scene. And then of course, working with different directors. I think the biggest thing is just, you get into a new worldview of the show, right? I think as actors, we're dropping deeper and deeper into our characters each episode. We're getting to know one another better. And then a new person comes in, right? And then they have a different point of view. And that's always good because whenever there's new perspective, you can get locked into your own idea of a thing. And then having another person come in and tell you like, oh, this is how I was seeing it. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's try that. And that's always, that's the point. The point is that our job is to keep trying things. And again, when you have a group of actors as strong as this, you can try them safely, knowing that you're all gonna fall in trusting arms.
Malcolm, I said to Deon, was he given the opportunity, being that he's a comedian and writer, to ad-lib some scenes to punch it up a bit? Were you given the same latitude?
Well, I don't want to say punch it up. Because that's going to imply that the writing needed to be improved.
Punched up, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I will say that there are times where I added jokes that I thought came out of my personality, and I think that's one of the reasons I get hired is my point of view, right? So yeah, I think everybody was given the opportunity. It's just about who uses and abuses it. So yeah, they give me, a fair amount of freedom and we all react, but really everyone's just trying to make the best script and make the best story. So really it's less about doing that and more about everyone just finding out what is the story, because this isn't a story that's really been told or the tone of it really executed on television that frequently, and we really are sort of towing a line. So I think the writers are trying things, the actors are trying things, and we really don't know exactly how it'll work until the end of the day. So, sure, I throw in an ad lib, she throws, and we work together, and all of the actors, not even just ad libbing, but how we act in the scene. There's a physical ad libbing that happens with all of us in terms of how we're approaching things. And so, I was given that opportunity. We all were, and I think we really experimented and took it where we could to find out just how great and how interesting and how different this show could be.
Congrats on the roles. Congrats on the series. I'm sure people will get a kick out of it once they get into the episodes and see where these characters are going, who makes it out, if everybody stays around, because sometimes in a series like this, it's always like 10 little Indians. Who's going to make it out? Let's hope all of you make it out.
Bodies drop.
Yeah. And to find that money.
Yes. Let's hope everybody stays alive and rich.
All right. Make it so. Take care, folks.
Thank you.
Wilson, do they always do that? Do they always go, Wilson? Because of Tom Hanks.
If Tom Hanks started it, I don't mind it.
Yeah,
me either.
I don't mind it at all.
I knew I wasn't original on this one. I knew it.
I try to be original. That's Wilson Morales, first of his name. But here we are. I said to myself, it goes, why can't Angela be like Kathy? Why she got to be the one to try to be the good shoes?
Listen,
somebody got to be
out of all the people, all these huge characters, and they do outlandish. Can I curse? No. Outlandish. Somebody has to ground the piece.
Yes.
Somebody has to be the voice of reason. Somebody. So she ain't a goody two shoes. She's just trying to make sure these other fools don't get out of line.
Yeah.
Wilson.
But same thing for Jennifer. Jennifer's like, but that was my man. I'm like, yeah, but he's part of the Russian mob.
Listen, I was young and in love. I'm young and in love. We've all been young and in love before, so everyone can relate
but when
to
your
that.
dad says, "Look what he did to me. Look what he did to me."
I know, but I'm in denial, and we all go through that.
Well,
when you're in
don't come
love,
here
you're in
attacking
denial.
us. We don't come attacking us.
Don't be attacking
You
my
don't
man.
want this smoke.
You know, it's a good series. What would it to say? Yes, I can do this. You know, because I'm sure every now and then you get projects you want to do. They get thrown at you. That you audition for. But what led you to say yes to taking on these projects? And Tammy.
Okay. I was
Mom
gonna toss it
goes
to you. Like I've been saying so many times, it literally was a pilot. Like the pilot, I read it, and it just the words just came alive on and I knew then and there I was like, this is so good, because if I am so entrenched in this now, I can't imagine what this is going to be like when you actually put it on his feet.
Yeah.
So no brainer for me.
Yeah. I would have to say I was just super engaged, like Tammy said. When I was reading the pilot, I was just, when you're reading the pilot as an actor, when you get any script, you want to see it. So when you really already see it while you're reading, it's almost like that's that sense of like, this is going to be good. This is going to be something, because I could visualize everything that's being placed on the paper. And that's what happened when I read the pilot. And I really wanted to know what's happening next, because the way it ended, it was like, what's happening next? So.
But sometimes a pilot can be looking good on script, and then when you execute it, when it's being directed and you're seeing it in front of you, it works well, because it's not always the case. And there are scenes where obviously a lot of you are together. What was that chemistry like probably before? Because you have to make it work on, you have to have, I guess, a friendship, as you're working through the production in order to make it work.
I mean, you don't really have to have a friendship. People do make it work. But in our case,
Yeah, you do.
Thank God, we did have a lot of chemistry. But we knew when we were sitting at the table, our first read.
Yeah, our first table read was so much fun.
We did 2 episodes, right?
Yeah,
we did the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And we knew then, like, this is a whole vibe right here.
We were feeding off energy over the table,
and this is
from the
from
reading. So it was like we all knew each other in a sense after that.
Exactly.
It was easy to just...
Did you give yourself a background as far as the characters you're playing, and Angela, as far as what makes her be the goody two shoes, or the one with the conscience? That's
I'm
supposed
gonna need
to
you
get
to stop saying goody two shoes, because she's not a goody two shoes. She is the voice of reason, Wilson.
The voice of reason. The voice of reason.
So don't come for my character like that.
The voice of reason.
And you don't know what the hell she been through at the end of it. Don't even try that, Wilson. Okay, no, let me take my damn jacket off.
All right, so
Getting you hot.
what makes Angela be the voice of reason? When you see that, as things unfold, somebody's got to be level-headed as far as this can't be right. What out of all the characters, obviously, and I was talking to Deon, and goes, yeah, he's lucky he's not with Kathy, because Kathy will have him go on the dark side in a minute. Angela's like, she's like his gizmo, like, you gotta do this right. You know what I'm saying? So did you give yourself a background?
Of course I did, but I think the main reason why she is like that is because she basically, it's a lot that you guys don't know until later in the episodes, that she has sacrificed, to make sure that this family unit stays together, and that her daughter is raised properly, and that her husband is appreciated for what he does, because he's a blue collar worker. Yes. So a lot of her grounding comes from her family, and just making sure that it is protected and nurtured and grows in a certain way. So that is probably the main thing that kind of grounds her. She don't want, and it's just like she's been living this way for a long time. She's settled in her life. She's actually happy. And then this comes along and blows it all up. Where does she fit now? What do you mean you're going to do this? Like, you can't, this doesn't make any sense. Who are you? You turning into a whole different person. Yeah. This ain't who you are.
Actually, you've done short films, you've done a feature film, but when you do a series, it's a different thing, because now you're playing this character for obviously multiple episodes. Yes. You're still growing as an actress. When you're working with different directors, what part of skill set as an actor was improved as you continue to do this?
I think just Okay, so that's a great question. Dealing with different directors was something that I, foreign to me. And I think just emotionally, my emotional preparation had to be different for everyone. So I think it's Tammy would always be like, if you got to disconnect and you got to go and you got to reconnect, if you got to zone everybody out, you got to get your headphones in, because different directors expected different things of me and you just always wanted to be prepared. And I think that just making sure that I was emotionally prepared, mentally ready, and able to handle any different direction the director wanted me to do. Luckily with training, that helped me a lot. But Tammy definitely was just like, if you need to put yourself to the side and focus and come back and express to the director if you need anything. I think that advice I took, and I handled that very well with all the different directors. But it was a change for me because everybody has a different style, a different vibe on how they direct. And luckily I was able to make connections with the directors. They wanted to talk to us one-on-one, like each director before we shot. So that helped a lot. So you can understand them, they can understand you. And I think it just played off well. But it was a great learning experience for me in that sense.
You're a pro at this in terms of, you've done multiple series, Tammy. And so obviously you've dealt.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Go ahead.
You're being modest.
I gotta give you a hard time, Wilson. You know I got to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But you've had your share of multiple directors, and when you do a series, obviously, as Ashley mentioned, everybody's gonna come in with a different take. But have to be grounded enough to like, okay, every episode is different because they're gonna want a different take, and obviously you don't shoot in sequence right away.
Yeah.
So like, is it something new, or is it still challenging? Like, okay, same drill, new page, new attitude towards somebody different in terms of directors.
Do you know what was? I just kind of learned this recently for me, and it's not really learning. I always knew it's okay to disagree with what the director is giving you. You know what I mean? Especially if you know the character so well, if you're able to like really like certain things that that motivates your character. And so for me, this one, because like Ashley was saying, each one is completely different, was different. The pacing was different. There were some times where I would say, hey, let's think about this, or, maybe let me try this first before, and I'll give you what you want, but then let me do this. And then when I would do it my way, like, yeah, that worked. So I'm finding it's so funny because I'm finding more of my voice as I get older.
That's the word.
You know what I mean? So to trust myself and my instincts. So yeah, that's what I learned.
And then when you're working with Malcolm and Deon, two gifted comedians, and you have to be the one to like help out the script, because sometimes when the jokes don't come in so obvious, but it's a joke. And you have to make it work when you're reading the script. How that is when you come in there and you're not necessarily needed to be the funny bones in the scene.
Mm-hmm. How does that?
When you don't need to when you don't need to add to the punch, of a joke that's there.
Listen, to me, if somebody is that's their lane and they're natural at it, I'm cool with just sitting back and going, you do you. I will be the person that give you the assist and to help you make your joke even funnier. Yeah. But with those two guys, even with the jokes that were on paper, they would hit those, but they would find like these nuggets, and where it wasn't. Yeah. And they would find the funny in
that's
it.
funny.
Exactly.
And they'd be like, that wasn't funny when we were reading that.
So that's the genius of those guys.
Super talented.
Congrats on the roles. Congrats on the series. I'll definitely will make note that you are the voice of reason.
Thank you, Wilson.
Come on, she's a strong mother. You got to give her credit.
We'll make it work. Have a good
All right.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. You take care.